And like we like to say at this time, good morning, Warrior Nation, and welcome to the playoff edition. Hopefully more than one playoff edition of KBL Game Day right here on Idabel's first 96.7 KBEL. This is Cornelius, we're here live in First State Bank Studio. We got Coach Kincaid with us. And I know you've heard it all week, man, but hey, congratulations on making the playoffs. And, let's get right into it. How have things been this week with the team and with the staff and just the general vibe of things around school?
It's been amazing. The staff. We've been pleased with the effort that we've been getting from our guys at practice all week. Our kids have been amped up. Taking it serious. It's all about getting these seniors one more game. And just continuing to push for one more game for those guys. They've been crucial for us in our program so far. They've had a great career as it is, in their 3 years. But, in this year where a lot of change happened, throughout their sports career, they've took it head on, man, and they've been great leaders. And so it's all about getting them one more game. And, we're excited to go out and compete with them.
Absolutely. I mean, this point of the year, how can you not take things seriously? So that kind of leads into my next question. So that the team's been able to, I guess you would say, flush away the feelings from getting beat last week by, a team like Lincoln Christian.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where we went up to the challenge, and I don't believe in moral victories, but there were some in that game. I feel like we showed that we can play with them. I know the score doesn't say it, but wrapping up, make a couple tackles here or there, get off the field third and fourth down, but we forced them to third and fourth down quite a bit. So I feel like we're in a good position to play with the best of the best, and so it's playoff time, so it's our opportunity to go out and prove that. Obviously by going and by being a 1 seed in the playoffs.
Yep, let's get right into that. Tonight we're taking on the Cascia Commandos up in Tulsa. Hopefully a lot of you can make that trip, and let's get right into it. What are your impressions of them when you look at them on video?
Yeah, they're a good team. Cascia Hall's really disciplined, well coached. Coach Medina up there's, legendary coach up there, has done a great job with that program for a while now. Their quarterbacks, their all-time leading passer there. He's thrown it around a bunch. I would expect them to try to air it out a little bit. Also, wouldn't be surprised if they lined up in some heavy sets and try to run right at us. Also, though, wouldn't be surprised. But that's not their game. That's not what they want to do. They want to put it in the air. And so hopefully our athletes can be disciplined enough in the back end and make plays, and we can create some pressure up front with our defensive line and front seven to go make some plays. They're a good football team. Defensively, they've done a great job in their district up north of shutting a lot of people down. 7, 14, 21, 26 points in that district up there. But, that district doesn't have the athletes that we have down here. And, so I think that'll be the question mark of how they try to play our athletes. Do they respect our speed, or do they do what they've been doing with everybody else and hope that they can get their sideline to sideline in the box?
Right. I looked at them on film. And I even, kind of kept track of their run plays versus pass. It seems like they are fairly balanced on offense, but the advantage does seem slightly to go more towards the pass. Of course, the quarterback, his name is Barrett Mullen, all-time leading passer at Cascia Hall, over 7,000 yards in his career. Likes to spread the ball out to his receivers, his tight ends, and he will take off running with it, scramble and get that first down wherever necessary. Let me get your thoughts on the running backs. I know they number 16 and number 5. I think you see number 16 more. Number 5 is mainly for defense, but they do rotate them in and out there. And then their receiving core. What have you seen with their receiving core?
Yeah, I mean, so their running backs, are nothing. I mean, I'm not going to say they're nothing special because obviously, you're playing at this point in the year, you're a special team. So, their running backs are good players. But, I think their best 2 offensive players outside of the quarterback are number 4, their receiver in the slot, and number 6, their outside receiver. 6 takes a lot of shots. 4 is the intermediate guy, short guy. He'll take some shots down the field too. He's fast. I know number 4, Fisher Lay. If I'm saying that right, LAI.
That's what I thought as well.
He has an offer to Tulsa as an athlete. So, he's a good kid. But, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think our 4 is better. and they're 6. I think our 6 is better. Just looking at it like that in that perspective, I think our guys are better. And, I think we just have to go out and execute tonight and show that.
Absolutely. Seems like they definitely want to get the ball in number 4's hands a lot because passing it to him, I think I've seen they've ran some stuff where they optioned it to him. And so I definitely would anticipate seeing the ball in Fisherlay's hands quite a bit. And then their offensive line, what do you think about their offensive line? It didn't seem like they're just huge up front, but those private schools, they don't recruit the 300-pound guys. They're a little more compact, but they get the job done up front.
Right, absolutely. We've seen bigger offensive lines throughout the year. Stigler was bigger. I think we've seen much better offensive lines throughout the year. They're a good team, but Holland was able to get home on some sacks versus them early in the year. Verdigris was able to get home on some sacks. I think our defensive speed and pressure that we're able to put on the quarterback, I think we'll be able to get home for a few sacks tonight, or at least force some pressures and maybe some errant throws, and maybe go up and pick a couple of them off. I think if we get 2 to 3 turnovers this game and we take care of the ball on offense, we should be riding home with a victory.
Absolutely, would love to see that. And then you never know, we may be playing at home next week, but we got to take care of tonight's contest. Let's get into their defense. What is it that they run? Because it looks like a 3-man front, and then you have an outside backer or a defensive end that stands up. Tell me about their defense.
Yeah, they're 3-4 defensively. They'll have a outside backer walked up 9 times out of 10 to a tight end side. So usually get into a 4-2 box, and versus heavy sets, they'll get into an 8-9-man box. And so we're going to use that to our advantage tonight. We'll get into some heavy personnel stuff and show heavy, and we may throw out of it. We may run out of it. It just depends on how they're going to line up to it and how well they play it. We got some misdirection things going into the playbook this week that we think is going to execute well and should hit well for us. I think that our guys are really well prepared going into this game. Their defense is, they're fast, they fly around, but I don't know if they're our fast.
Right.
They're a fast team, but I don't think they can compete with our speed, and we're going to have to use that to our advantage.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a challenge for them. Like you mentioned, there are guys up front. That's usually number 24 that's walking up to the line of scrimmage, I notice, most times on defense. In their linebacking core, they're all right. And then I know you're a secondary and receiver guy. What are your thoughts on their secondary?
Yeah, I mean, they're a disciplined secondary for the most part. Number 4 is pretty much their lockdown corner over there on one side. The other side corner, number 20 is all right. Their safety 18 and 13, I believe, in the back end.
Yeah.
They're good players. They've done a great job this year. I think that there are some things we can exploit with them. As long as we can execute it. Especially, by us just creating separation and getting open. I think that we can do that. I think their best defensive players, in my opinion, is obviously number 4, their corner, but number 5 in the box at linebacker. He's a really good player. He reads and reacts really fast, really quick. So we got to make sure we climb to him with the O-line and make sure we get hands on him. If we do that, I think we'll be able to bust some runs and to get open.
Right. And big thing on our end for tonight is team is relatively healthy. You don't have anybody out that's going to miss. You don't have, any lingering suspensions or anything like that. So, to be playing in first week of the playoffs and you got your whole team healthy, that's a great thing. Bryce B is back in action, and hopefully, we'll see everybody that can play out there playing up in Tulsa. So, I mean, just talk about having your whole team healthy heading into tonight's game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge plus. We lost Zion Burris this week. He has turf toe, so he's been dealing with that, going to rehab, making sure he's getting that doctored up. We're gonna hopefully, take care of business tonight, and hopefully he'll try to come back next week. And so we'll try to tape that up. He's the only one on the injury report, though. I think that plays quite a bit. He's the only one. But it's a blessing, man. To go into week 11 healthy, and fully intact with nothing really lingering for the most part. It's a blessing for sure. Our kids, it's testament to our strength and conditioning program that we've implemented this year. And it's amazing. I mean, our kids have bought in and they're ready to go.
All right, next question here. Not sure if you're aware, but the Oklahoman state paper has picked Cascia Hall to win 31-14. However, it's worked to our advantage. I recall a few times where the other team has been picked to win, but we've gone up there and pulled out the victory. So I know that's mainly for the fans and other media to talk about, but there's just something about being the underdog and going up and surprising opponents. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, we've been the underdog pretty much all 10 games this season. For the most part, we weren't supposed to win 5 games. When we did. So I'm just excited for the opportunity. I love being the underdog. It's a fun place to be. You get to shock some people. The good thing about it is our kids won't be shocked about it. Our kids aren't shocked about going and beating people that you weren't supposed to beat, or people said they weren't supposed to beat, because they know how good they are and they know what the preparation and the work that they put in. They understand that, they're a good football team, a really good football team, and, they have a chance to make a really good run.
All right. And, it's a long trip to Tulsa. Well, not that long. It's 3 hours and change, a little over 3 hours. I looked it up on the Maps apps I use. It's a little more than 3 hours. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment for folks that are going to make that trip and attend the game. But give you a chance to final words for Warrior Nation before we go to break real quick.
Yeah, I mean, hey, guys, come out and travel well, please. These kids deserve it, and they've earned a chance to compete in the playoffs, and, we're going to be at Cascia Hall, and it's going to be a crazy environment. They're going to have a good old student section. From what I've heard from the kids, apparently their kids are going to bring basketballs, and they're apparently going to throw basketballs on the court or on the field after they supposedly win in their eyes. So the good thing is there won't be any basketballs thrown on the court. You guys come and match that energy for the faithful ones that have been there week in and week out. We appreciate you guys. We just hope some more faces show up in the crowd and cheer these boys on.
Absolutely. I know we got a few Idabel adjacent folks that live in Tulsa. Hopefully they make that trip. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of these area and district playoff games that are on the schedule for tonight. We'll be right back. You're listening to KBL Game Day right here on Idabel's First 96.7 KBEL. Welcome back to KBL Game Day right here on Idabel's First 96.7 KBEL. This is Cornelius Neal live here from First State Bank Studio. We got Coach Kincaid here with us, and we're going to get into these other matchups. Now, let's go ahead and throw this out here. The winner of our game will take on the winner of Plainview and Perkins Tryon. There is a possibility that if we win and Plainview wins, Plainview has to come here. So there is that opportunity to host a second round game at Warrior Nation Stadium. That would be a great thing here for this area. You wouldn't think so, Coach?
Yes, sir. I mean, I think looking at it, last year Shakota was the 4 and upset Cascia Hall last year in this game, and I believe it was Plainview and Bristow last year, and Bristow actually upset Plainview. Shakota went to Plainview, or Shakota went to Bristow last year in the playoffs as a 4 and a 3 matchup, and I think that was because it was an even year. And now the odd year would put us playing home regardless next week, whether Perkins or Plainview won. I think we'd play at home regardless next week. So we win this one, we should be hosting a round 2 game, whether it's Plainview or Perkins. Obviously, Plainview would be a great great little storyline coming back.
Absolutely.
With Coach Pratt coming back to Idabel to play his former team, and regardless of the circumstances, it is what it is. Our kids are going to be amped up, ready to go for that one. So as they are tonight.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Let's get this win tonight, and then we can play at home next week. That'd be great to have here, another game at Warrior Nation Stadium. So getting into these games that are being played tonight, you got Shakota at Inola. That'll be a pretty good matchup, as they like to run the ball with Jay Nellen, and then they can throw it. Cole Rowland, a really good runner, and he can get it done through the air as well. But they'll be on the road, so that'll be an interesting matchup. Now, this one, Jay at Lincoln Christian. I think they played last year, and Lincoln Christian ran away from them. I think they put up more than 60 in that contest. And then the other matchup out of our district, this should be a good one. Berry Hill making the trip over to Holland Hall. So any of those interest you?
Yeah, the Bear Hill Holland Hall game will be really, really fun to watch, or to read about it and see what the score is of that one. I think Bear Hill is one of the best teams in that Northeast district up there that we played, or that we're matching up with up there. They took Cascia 35-21 last week, so it'll be really interesting to see. I know Holland has been winning games, but it hasn't been the prettiest of wins. Locust scoring 26, Stickler scoring 26 on them. I don't know if it's garbage time minutes or not for the most part, but still interested to see some of those scores being put up on Holland Hall. So that game interests me a lot. To see what that final ends up being.
All right, and then here closer to home, we got let's start off Wyandotte making the trip down to Bulldog Stadium to take on Valiant. Getting word that lots of folks are picking the road team to win. I'm understanding that Kenny Golston is not going to play tonight. He hurt his ankle in a couple of spots last week at home against Valiant, so that would definitely swing the momentum. And if you're somebody that picks games, that might swing things over towards the road team. I know Valiant's able to get it done in the air a little bit, and then the quarterback, he's not afraid to run the ball. So wonder what kind of game plan Valiant's going to come up with if they don't have Kenny Golston in the lineup.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. Hopefully Kenny's all right and he can play. Hopefully Valiant can get the dub without him if he doesn't, and can move on to the next round and get him back healthy. I would expect a lot of Brody Dory's tonight in the run game, and then hitting some of those athletes on the outside, Riker and the other kid over
Trap.
there. Yep, Trap. For the Bulldogs to hopefully come out with a victory.
All right, and then I forgot about this one. I actually skipped over it. Wagner making the trip down to Broken Bow. Wagner's been a power in Class 4A for several years. I know they've won the state title or two here in recent years, but Broken Bow, they won their district. Congratulations going out to them. So it'll be a good chance for the Savages to show out in front of the home crowd. Do you know anything about Wagner right off the top of your head?
No, I just seen that Wagner, snuck into the playoffs as the 4 seed over there in that district. From talking to Coach Bean over there, he said that they're a really good 4 seed team, and so that they're going to have their hands full. I don't think that they'll have their hands full. I think Broken Bow wins that one handedly, but good luck to the Savages tonight, but that's a good Wagner team they're going to play.
Absolutely. And then Antlers making the trip up to Salina. Antlers is a 3 seed out of their district or the 4? I think they're 3.
They're 3, yes, sir.
So good luck to the Bearcats. And then finally, Hugo snuck into the playoffs. They beat Prague last week. Things shut them out, and then things fell just right for them. They're in the playoffs. Congratulations to the Buffaloes and everybody up there. And they'll be in Tulsa as well. They will be taking on Metro Christian. And Metro Christian was one of the teams to knock off Cascia Hall earlier this season. So a tall task ahead for the Buffaloes. So your thoughts on that contest before we get you out of here?
Yeah, Metro Christian's a really, really explosive team. They're 2A1. I really think that even with Washington, I think that they'd be my favorites to win it in 2A1 with Metro Christian winning it. They throw the ball around a lot. They've been really successful this season, had a really good year. That'd be my 2A1 pick to win it over Washington even this season.
All right, somebody has got to knock Washington off one of these years, and why not now? So, we're going to get you out of here, and I know y'all will be taking off here in a couple of hours, and we will be as well. So, we'll be back here after this break, and we're actually going to let the weather and the ONN news play here in just a minute, and then we'll be back with the game day info and forecast. You're listening to KBL Game Day right here on Idabel's First 96.7 KBEL.